On this episode, we have a first-time guest. Shannon McGowan, our Seed Division Manager and Merschman Trucking Corporation Manager, joins us and talks about the ins and outs of his job. Get the inside scoop on one of the most integral jobs here at Merschman Seeds that keeps your seed delivery on track. You won't believe this, but it snowed yesterday in southeast Iowa. It might be a minor setback, but you'll be planting in no time when the time is right.
Hi, this is Joe Merschman. Welcome to Cup of Joe, episode number 38, season 2. Well, today we have our regulars. We have Tommy, and we have Ben, Turk, and we have a special guest, Shannon McGowan, who is our seed production manager, and we're going to interview him today. He's the guy behind the scenes that kind of makes everything work in this company when it comes to production and logistics. But before we go to Shannon, we're going to start off with Ben because, well, let's see. Friday morning, I swore we woke up, it's the middle of January, but it's not. It's the middle of April, right, Ben? So what happened?
Okay, locally we got probably anywhere from 4 to 8 inches of snow, and there are quite a few fields of soybeans planted in our area. And I wanted to reiterate, I know we've gone over it the past couple weeks, but I kind of wanted to reiterate what are the important things what that seed's going through right now, and how the snow and the cold weather is going to be affecting it. So
we've had the soil temperature, was in the 50s. Now, boy, it's approaching in the lower 40s right now. So we've had it go backwards, and that's usually a kiss of death when it comes to trying to get seed to germinate and get it out of the ground.
Especially if that seed was put in the ground within the past 48 hours.
Okay.
Typically within 3 days after planting, no moisture is being taken up by that seed in the germination process. So a lot of the seed that is sitting there that was planted a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, it is still sitting in the ground. It shouldn't be harmed by anything. If soil temperatures were to drop below 28 degrees, we would have horrible, devastating things happening to the stands. Since we're not at that point, where we are locally, the soil temp this morning was 41 with the snow on top. I don't foresee it going any lower than that because the snow is actually acting like a thermal blanket right now. So it's just basically going to hold at a low 40 soil temp, and then hopefully next week with warming temperatures, we'll see soil temps start to rise again, and maybe we'll get back in the fields by the end of the week. But I think things are still sitting okay as long as the soybeans don't emerge. I saw pictures from customers that have beans in the field where the hypocaudal on the soybeans is actually pulling itself out of the ground a little bit. I mean, it's working on pulling itself. The beans themselves aren't out of the ground yet, so the beans are progressing a little bit, but I think things are sitting okay where we are right now. I did have a couple customers that I stopped planting yesterday. I didn't realize that they were rolling, but they were putting corn in the ground, and I definitely had them pump the brakes on that because I think putting corn in the ground yesterday and the day before, the imbibing process of water would absolutely destroy the vigor of the corn at this point. So,
well, Turk, you've got a good story, I think, that really brings home some of the issues with planting right before a snowstorm. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we had I can't remember. I think it was mid-90s, somewhere along in there. I was planting corn. It was actually April 25th was the day that I was planting corn, and we had a snowstorm. And of course, I wanted to try and finish the field. It was late in the afternoon. I wanted to try and finish that field, and the road cleaners do move snow. Because it was snowing so hard that I was starting to make little black rows down my field. But I had to stop because the press wheels and the closing wheels were picking up mud, and so I had to stop. And the snow was gone the next day, and the next morning I was out planting in the same field again, just picked up right where I left off. And everything that I had planted that day, the day that it snowed, I had to be replanted. Everything I planted the day before, everything I planted the day after was fine, but everything that I planted the day that it snowed had to be replanted because that cold, that snow melted down into that that seed furrow where that seed was, and that cold water is what that was, that first drink of water that seed that I planted that day got. And of course that just kills seedling vigor and germ, and again, it had to be replanted.
Don't you agree, Turk, that it also that is a perfect example of something else I wanted to talk about? It depends on how long we stay in this cooling process. In your situation, it sounds like the temperatures dipped and then they probably climbed fairly quickly afterwards. That's why you could go back and plant the next day. If we don't stay in this trend very long, the beans will be fine. But if we're in a really long, prolonged 40-degree soil temps, you're going to see the vigor of both corn and soybeans in the ground. You're going to see it start to chip away at that vigor for that plant. So we need Mother Nature to agree with us for a little bit here and start warming back up so that we can get back in the fields and that the stuff that's already in the ground doesn't need to be replanted.
Well, I think Ben, what you're trying to say is we really need to watch the extended forecasts on making sure everything, looks like we're going to have some cool stretches go even into May a little bit with some rain. So that's something to really keep an eye on. And also replant situation with people who buy their herbicide programs based on the trait platform that they're planting. That's something to think about too for supply of replant. So,
talking about herbicides, if you were planning the Extend program here, let's say you planted a week ago, the clock's ticking on your
45
days. That's the last point you can apply your herbicide. So if it takes 2.5 weeks or so or 2 weeks to get those beans up out of the ground, you got to keep in mind that you got a 45-day window to apply your dicamba post application.
Right.
So it limits your flexibility.
I think it still rings true what Kevin Fall from Rosen said 2 or 3 weeks ago when he was on. A poor stand never improves. So, return on your investment for emerging soybeans is what we're talking about. A poor stand never improves. That's something to keep watching out for and watch these extended forecasts.
Well, we'll know in a week or two how things turn out.
Joe started out with soil temperatures. What the soil temperature was, and this is our second snow this week, and so our soil temperatures have dropped all week. So we have to get back up to that 50 degrees, and it looks like this next week we're going to start heading that direction for sure. And once that soil temperature gets back up to 50 degrees, or it looks like it's in a warming trend that is going to stick around for a while, I think we'll be okay. So again, make sure you're not mudded in, make sure you've got good soil conditions, and make sure that we're in a warming trend. And I think we're good. It's the concern is going to be is what's got planted in the last few days for sure is going to be the concern.
Very true. Tommy, do you have anything else you want to add? Some of the things that you're running into this week?
I want to get to Shannon's segment and figure out how he keeps everything controlled between two plants here.
Okay, let's do that. This past week, President Trump was actually Thursday, had a ceremony at the White House, and he honored the American truckers, I should say, and the great job that they're doing in supplying this country with the necessary food and supplies that we need to fight the virus, coronavirus that we're involved with right now. And really that takes us back to World War II. When they analyzed at the end of the war, what was the number one weapon in Europe that helped win the war. And of course, everybody had different ideas, but they all settled in on it was the 2-ton truck that won the war in Europe. Because an army is only as good as its supplies. In other words, you can have all the weapons in the world, but if you don't have food for your soldiers and you don't have bullets and shells for those tanks, you're not going to do too much in gasoline. So to win the war in World War II, they did what's called the Red Ball Express. They basically had roads over in Europe that nobody could drive on them except for the army trucks, the 2-ton truck, and they called it the Red Ball Express. And so that kind of brings us back to why our trucks are red. We literally emulate that history there by having red trucks. And the red trucks, we commonly call them in our office as the Red Ball Express. In other words, they're the supply line from our seed plant to the dealer and then to the farmer. Well, Shannon has to coordinate all these moving parts. He has over 30 delivery vehicles that he's working with when you count our salespeople with their trailers, and our own trucks, and how we're different than a lot of other seed companies. We do believe in delivering the seed as much as possible. We use a few owner operators, but with our own equipment. And the reason we do that, because we know they'll be on time, and we know that it'll be delivered right, and the seed won't come damaged in any way, bags broken, and also we do it every day. So our truck drivers are really, really good at what they do. We have a tremendous amount of respect for our truck drivers. They get up at 3 and 4 in the morning every day and head out. Conditions like we had on Friday morning with snow, they have to deal with that, and of course they have to deal with the bitter cold too. It's never easy, but I can tell you, talk about Red Ball Express. I know since this coronavirus, they're saying there's less traffic, and it's actually kind of enjoyable to drive through St. Louis now and some of the other big cities that we drive through, because there's nobody on the road. So it's almost like World War II that we have this thing going on, that only folks on the road are the truck drivers. So they do see a value in that, but we'd like to see those cars back on the road, believe me. So Shannon, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do here, what your title is, and what you all manage.
Sure. My titles are Seed Division Manager and then Merschman Trucking Corporation Manager. So basically what that entails is I'm in charge of everything inbound and outbound to the West Point plant and our Olmsted, Illinois plant, rough diamond conditioning. So it basically starts at the grower's bin site. When I've looked through the list and figured out what we need to produce to meet orders and also keep our trucks moving outbound, starts right there at the farmer's bin site. I'll call up our grower, and I need this variety, so many bushels, so I'll line up trucks for that, and we'll bring those bushels either into West Point plant or to the Olmsted plant, and then it goes through their plant or our plant. We clean it, treat it, bag it, and goes into the warehouse, and then we go to the next variety and just keep doing that over and over and try to, what I do is I look at all the varieties that we need, and I determine what we have for warehouse space. So I may run a certain amount of this variety and then switch to another variety and then to the other one to keep the warehouse in balance as far as space, keep the trucks moving, and then keep the customers' deliveries going to them. And so it's quite a juggling act at times. Get to be challenging.
Well, I know you can do Sultro, you can do our standard bonus coated treated, and then you've got untreated, and then you've got the combination with the bags.
Yes,
I think we added up, there's 2,500 SKUs.
It is a lot.
Options when you consider everything we have, when you consider alfalfa and everything. So when sometimes a customer says, how come you can't ship me this particular product? And it explains it's really hard to get it all at the same time, isn't it?
Yes, it really is. And a lot of the customers do what we like them to do. They'll plant quite a few varieties quite a few numbers of our varieties to kind of spread the risk. But in those cases, like you said, Joe, it does take a long time to get 4 or 5 or even sometimes 10 and 12 varieties to one dealer. It takes a while to get all those done and ran on the floor and keep the trucks moving in the background to other places while we're working on these bigger runs and these bigger varieties for these dealers.
This year was a little bit different. Normally you start shipping November 1st. What happened this year?
Well, we had kind of what I call the perfect worst storm for production, I guess, for a seed company. We had a late fall coupled with an early spring, so we had a very, very short window. Normally we start, shipping outbound seed November 1st. This year it was December 1st. We basically lost a full month of shipping just due to the late fall, early spring. So we've been running our wheels off, so to speak, to try and make up for that short window that we've been given.
And on the other hand, though, we did increase the amount of equipment available that we had and put more folks on that task to catch it up. In other words, so right now, are you on schedule?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. We're on schedule. We're looking really good both here and the southern plant. We're in really good shape right now.
If you're not familiar with where Olmsted is, it's literally overlooks the Ohio River,
Correct.
extreme southern Illinois. So
Yes, it is.
That's our plant that takes care of the Mid-South for us, and it's a brand new plant. The quality is unbelievable. They've had several perfect seed lots. So in fact,
Yes.
how many seed lots? Perfect seed lots now. Perfect seed lot is 100% germ. Now, last time we had 100% germ was 2011. So how many of you had this year?
So we're definitely making up for that. We're at 13 now. So we're just having a spectacular year. And I'm pretty sure that the Olmsted plant's just maybe 1 or 2 ahead of us up here at West Point, but we're coming after them.
So we have this internal competition about
Yeah.
who can produce the best seed, and I love that. That's great. That's
Yes.
the kind of competition you want to have. So one of the things that sometimes happens is customer gets his seed and says, "Well, this is not what I ordered." Is that possible?
It isn't what he thought he ordered. I guess we could go that route. But so there again, it all starts out with our easy order system. When the dealer or customer puts their order in, we want to make sure, can't stress enough, that the order is correct. And that means treatment, package size, variety, everything. And at the end of the ordering process, I've never ordered off of easy order system, but I see the order confirmations. So we can't stress enough, just look again at that order confirmation and make sure everything is correct. Make sure it is the variety you want in the package you want, and also going to the correct location, to the correct ship to location, because there's choices in there too.
So I seen the efficiency score on our production and shipping. It's 99.9% efficient. And it's because of the barcode system that we use and the way all of our inventory management. So the bottom line is, if you put it in right, you can't ship it wrong.
That is very, very true.
Because when they scan that product, and if it doesn't match the machine will say, "Hey, this is not the right product to put on the truck."
Absolutely.
So one of the things that drives you crazy is when you're all ready to ship, and then you confirm everything with the customer, and they say, "Oh, no, that's supposed to be Sultral, right?"
Sure.
And then we had everything ready to go, and then all of a sudden we're thrown a curveball. But we don't like those, but we deal with them, right?
Sure, we manage through them.
So Shannon, you mentioned a little bit of that competition with the Olmsted plant, Rough Diamond down there. What's West Point doing to kind of beef up their efforts next year to even do a better job?
Well, coming this summer, we're going to do a very nice plant expansion. We're going to do a leg upgrade, so our legs are going to be much more capacity. And also the big thing is the color sorter. We're going to be installing the color sorter.
The legs that we're using are going to be gentler on the seed, number one, and then the color sorters are not only will work on both color but also shape.
Yes.
So those are usually machines that you only see in food grade plants, popcorn,
Yep.
lima beans, and things like that. So that just steps us up. Now I know a lot of the seed corn production plants have color sorters in, but a soybean plant that specifically does soybeans, most of the seed companies out there use them if they have doing corn and soybeans, but just being a soybean plant is really kind of unique, just that we're going to spend the kind of money they cost to try to improve our quality on soybeans only.
So
And
we
we'll
should
work
have-
on wheat too, obviously.
Yes, we should have perfect looking seed after this summer's expansion projects.
Well, I know it's never easy to be ahead of the Red Ball Express, but you've done a fine job this past year, and you just get better and better at it as you learn more and more. And it's a real privilege to work with customers that work with us, right?
Yes, it is. Absolutely, it is.
Because when you call them up and they give you 100 excuses why they can't take seed, that kind of really makes it difficult to keep those balls in the air rather than have them stumble and fall.
It does. It makes it challenging.
Well, we thank you. Tommy, you have any remarks?
I wanted to point out, Shannon, I just want to send a big shout out and a thank you to everything that you guys have done in the production team. I know it takes a village with the Bryans and Katie's and Cindy and even Heston's group down there, but I've had tons of compliments from the dealers and the salesmen of how good of a job that you guys have done accommodating, and it really kind of brings us up a level just having your cool, calm head at the top of our production team. So we really appreciate that. And the dealers, huge shout out. I mean, we get complimented on our truck drivers and our shipping team all the time. So, I mean, that's kudos to you. We really appreciate that.
Appreciate it, Tommy. I really do. Like you said, I've got a wonderful team behind me that I could not do any of it without them. And the truck drivers, we always get compliments, like you said, from the dealers about the truck drivers on their, their demeanor, their interaction with them, how clean our equipment is. And as far as the problem solving with the dealers, it's nice to have the set of dealers that we have that are easy to get along with, and they understand some of the things going on our side, and they make it easy to help solve problems. And we've got a great set of dealers, and I wouldn't trade them for anything.
Well,
appreciate that, Tommy.
I'm going to tell you a little inside story here on Shannon. Heston down there and Shannon both are military, okay, and they pride themselves in doing everything perfect and with precision. Occasionally, one of them will make a little bitty mistake. Well, Heston caught Shannon making a little mistake, and so Shannon said, "Okay, I owe you." So he sent him a video of him doing 15, 20 push-ups?
Push-ups in my office.
Yeah. So here's this video going down to Heston, and he's doing push-ups for making that little mistake, and then didn't happen a week later. He caught them on a little mistake, and then they're sending a video back. Yeah. They're counting out the push-ups. Yeah. So all I can say is they take their job serious, and they do really well at it. Well, Shannon, I'll tell you something else a little bit behind the scene. We always say, Shannon, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? I mean, sometimes he gets 6, 7, 8, 10 requests, and he'll respond, I got a PhD in getting stuff done. Sometimes he uses a little different word than stuff, but you know what I'm saying. But he prides himself on getting things done, and he does well. So we appreciate that, Shannon, a lot.
Thank you.
You bet. I'd like to conclude the episode with a little bit of a shout out to a local industry, DuPont in Fort Madison, Iowa. They are the industrial side of DuPont, but they made hand sanitizer, converted over and made hand sanitizer for over 200 companies here in southeast Iowa. And the other day we were having trouble finding hand sanitizer, and I contacted them, and they said, sure, no problem. And so they supplied us enough for all of our employees so that we can protect ourselves from this virus. And best of all, they gave it to us free of charge. So that was really special. So I'd like to conclude today with the corny joke. Now, this one here I learned from my dad a long time ago, and I never forgot it. And it kind of goes along with the the washing of the hands and everything that's required now to protect ourselves from the coronavirus. And this one here is, what's the difference between a doctor and a mechanic? Well, the difference between a doctor and a mechanic is a doctor washes his hands after he goes to the bathroom. A mechanic washes his hands before he goes to the bathroom. Well, hopefully that'll get you to next week, and looks like next week it's going to warm up. We'll get those planters back out and get back to doing what we do best, and that's farming and growing food for the world. So again, be safe, be healthy, and we'll see you next week.